So, enough of me. I'm going to bring out Craig and Ed. Welcome.
No dancing.
I had to do a little.
day.
Oh, it works. Hi, everyone.
Hopefully mine works. Can anybody hear me? All right.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Edward Kobloth, the Director of Product at Logicbroker.
Yep, and my name's Craig Regan. I'm the Director of Sales of Logicbroker. We're both very excited to be up here to talk to you guys about order management, EDI, dropship, and to actually show you some tools that you can use within Logicbroker to help you guys stay ahead of the competition. And when I tell people we're doing a live demo, they look at me like I'm crazy. But Ed over here, he's going to rock it later and show you all these fancy features that we have within our platform, like I said, that can help you guys stay ahead of the competition. I think if you have the clicker right here, I'll take the clicker.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
So let's just take a step back. Where everybody's talking a lot about omni-channel, all the different ways to buy, and a lot of times people talk about the front end. They talk about how you might need a mobile app, or you need an e-commerce platform, or your in-store experience. A lot of it is talking about the front end and the customer experience. But a lot of times what gets forgotten is what happens behind the scenes, whether that's inventory, EDI, dropship, analytics. That is very important. And with the many different ways to buy, it's very important that all these different tools that happen behind the scenes are working together. So for this presentation, we're just going to go through a little bit about distributed order management. If you don't know what it is, you'll learn what it is, why it's important. We'll go through a great example of it, and then we'll talk about the importance of dropship and EDI, and then Ed will show you some of the tools within Logicbroker. So I was trying to find some good stats for my presentation. It's always hard. There's lots of stats out there. And even putting sometimes the material, it's hard to figure out what does the customer want to hear, or what is going to happen that's going to resonate with them. And then sometimes things just happen to you and you're like, wow, this might be something I want to tell people. So I found this stat where I found 77% of retailers rank inventory planning and visibility as a top priority, which I think, yeah, that's very important. You want to have a good buy online, pick up in store, or just pick up in store experience, checking it out and in store. But what I found is that 75% of retailers have inaccurate inventory levels. And I experienced a retailer pretty big that is in this percentage very recently. So it was a Friday. My CEO walks in the morning. He has these very fancy new pair of shoes. And I look at mine, I'm like, oh man, I need to upgrade my pair of shoes if I'm going to meeting with him on Tuesday. So I go online when I get home from work. I find these nice pair of shoes that they're not too business-like, they're casual, a nice in-between what I really wanted. So I look online, and the retailer told me it was going to be 7 days before they could ship it to my house, or I could pay $40 to get it shipped overnight, but the shoe was only $80, so I didn't really pay $40 for shipping. So I saw, oh, they have a pick-up in-store feature. Why don't I put my zip code in there and see if it's at my local store? And they said, yeah, it's at your local store. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go there. Next morning, I go there with my girlfriend to go find the shoe. I walk into the retailer, go to the shoe section. It's me. Guy looks like Ed, and a couple other guys just standing there waiting for somebody to help them. And I'm just standing there waiting 10 minutes. If you know me, I'm not very patient. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go in the back. You know how when you're looking for shoes, they're always like, I'm going to go find that shoe in the back for you? I just went in the back. And I was like, my girlfriend was horrified. She was like, oh, you can't do that. You're going to get in trouble. I was like, yeah, I might get in trouble. What are they going to do? I'll buy the shoe if they have it. So I go in the back, and I walk into this room, and I've done a lot of work with warehouses and warehouse management system. The back, if you go to this retailer, it's very disorganized. I couldn't find anything. Nothing was labeled right. The bin, there was no bin numbers. There was no rack numbers. I'm looking. I'm trying to find my shoe. I grab a ladder. I'm trying to find the shoe. I come out a couple minutes later. I'm like, my girlfriend's name's Britt. I was like, Britt, I can't find the shoe. A couple minutes later, after I almost gave up, someone comes to help me. from the retailer's customer service. They come over and they're, sir, what are you looking for? I was like, I'm trying to find this shoe. Can you help me find it? I didn't tell them I went in the back because I just didn't know how she was going to react if I told her I was in the back. She goes back there. She's like, we definitely got it, sir. I was like, okay, you definitely don't have it. When it goes back there, she doesn't have it. At the end of the day, I'm at this retailer for an hour trying to buy a pair of shoes that they told me was online. If I called their customer service, which I didn't do, but I can almost guarantee they would have told me it was there. And I really tried to think, what led to this being such a poor experience? At the end of the day, I had to just go back online and buy the pair of shoes, and I didn't have them for the meeting. I think it really came down to technology issues, that there wasn't a seamless integration between all their different technologies. And I don't know what that retailer was using, but something on their site, something in their store wasn't communicating with each other about what's actually there. And I found this stat that said 94% of merchants face significant integration barriers to achieve these seamless experiences. So I tried to figure out, what helps solve this for people and who's doing it well. So that's when distributed order management comes into play. And really, the focus of distributed order management is having your systems talk to each other and work together so that they're sharing information and making processes easy for them. So this is like that retailer I was talking about. This is probably what this looked like. They had their storefront, whether that's e-commerce or their brick and mortar store. They had their customer service, their fulfillment, their inventory was a mess in the back. Nothing was really working together. So how do you solve that? I don't like to use transitions much, but I had to throw one in there. Really, it's about order management and trying to tie all these different tools and all these different ways of doing business together. Because really, if you want to compete against the Amazons of the world, the Walmarts of the world, you need your inventory and everything talking to each other in the right ways. But how do you do that? It sounds so simple. I'm up here just talking about it. It sounds simple. It isn't. But there are people that are doing it. So if you take a look at these stats for multi-channel merchant, people are improving. 44% if you see of retailers have adopted buy online, pick up in store. Being able to exchange returns and everything in store is becoming more and more popular. And if you're not doing these type of things now, it should definitely be part of your focus because more and more people are adding it and it's becoming more of an expectation for a customer like myself. So how are they doing it? So we have a great example of a customer that's really modernizing their technology and their order management to make it easy for customers to buy from them wherever they are. So Rural King, if you're in this area, you probably have never heard of them, but they're very popular in the Midwest. They have about 140 stores all in the Midwest because they sell farming supplies. Tractors, John Deere, alpaca feed, chicken feed, everything that you would need to run a farm and to run a big plot of land, they sell it. And why they're growing so much is because they know their customer very well. They know the product that they need to sell, and they know when the customer comes in how to sell it to them. If somebody comes in saying to order chicken feed, they know how much chicken feed they should have for 10 chickens, 20 chickens, 30 chickens. But what their problem was that they have this great in-store experience. People bring in their dogs, their pets, their associates. They're very knowledgeable. You can have popcorn, you can have coffee, all for free. It was a great experience. But buying something online was a disaster. You buy something online, it would get to the customer's front door, and they wouldn't get tracking information. Customers would get notification that their order was canceled, 5 days later, and they were expecting that chicken feed to feed their chickens the next day. It just wasn't talking to each other. So they really took a step back and said, if our business wants to grow more and more, how can we mirror our online experience with the in-store experience? And that's when they decided to implement an order management system with many different tools, one of them being Logicbroker, which Logicbroker, we help them enable them to communicate automatically with all their suppliers. So they have about 300 suppliers that are integrated with our platform and their order management system. And for them, it makes it all completely seamless. So if a customer places an order online, it goes directly to the supplier. Tracking information comes back automatically and provides all that experience that the customer expects, and it's all automated on their side. So you don't have to throw a lot of bodies around processing all these dropship orders, and adding new products and new vendors isn't very labor intensive. It becomes very easy for them. They were also able to expand like buy online and pick up in store. So part of their business is they sell large bulk items, and shipping that to your house, in the middle of Kansas is very, very expensive. And a lot of these guys, they have trucks, and they have the ability to pick up these products. So what they were able to do was implement buy online and pick up in store with just their retail inventory and with their dropship inventory. So those products would go straight to the warehouse or the brick and mortar store. The customer would come with their truck and pick up the item. Then they would come hang out in the store with their kids because they had free popcorn, free coffee, became an experience, and then they would buy more. And I mean, it's 95% increase in traffic from the stores because they have that buy online and pick up in store. And it's a really win-win for them, their customers, and their vendors. They were also able to see an overall 34% increase in online revenue by just mirroring these two aspects of their business and providing that seamless experience, which for most businesses, I think a 34% increase on online revenue is pretty good. And my buddy over there, he put it pretty simply when I was like, can I get a good quote for the presentation? He just said, OMS is helping to modernize and transform our e-commerce ecosystem. So they're using a lot of different aspects of order management. They have their storefront, they have their e-commerce site, they have their dropship inventory. And so I could talk about this all day with you guys. We might have another Connected Commerce, just me talking about this the entire time. But one of the reasons why we do this event is we want to bring in best-in-class solutions to talk about what they do well and how they can help you achieve this. So we bring in an Ingram Micro and ShipStation, talk about fulfillment and inventory. We bring in our buddies from Avalara to talk about analytics, taxes, Something Digital to talk about the storefront experience, in-store and e-commerce, and Dot Mailer to talk about email marketing and customer service. What I want to do and what Ed's going to talk through is specifically one thing, which is dropship, which is our expertise. So the importance of dropship, it's there. 49% of retailers have and are prioritizing dropship as a way they want to grow their business. And as you can see here, the way Logicbroker does it was make it very easy for a retailer to do dropship. It's not something that you have to have lots of sprints. You have to put a lot of work together to say, okay, we have to go through step 1, step 2, step 3. There's a lot of work Logicbroker can do to marry all those processes together and onboard, whether it's 10 suppliers or thousands of suppliers, all at one time. So we'll go through some of the benefits of dropship. Really, it comes down to maintaining better inventory. We're able to receive those inventory files. So like with that Rural King, for example, the fact that they're receiving inventory files from their supplier, now they've reduced their out-of-stock sales for dropship because customers aren't placing an order and they're thinking the inventory is there because they're getting those updated inventory files from their suppliers. It also improves their order accuracy. They have no longer people just data entering or processing these orders manually or custom building integrations. They have it all running through Logicbroker. They also have an automated order lifecycle. So they were getting orders, in the middle of the night. They couldn't fulfill them until a couple hours after the business opened up because they would stack up on top of each other. With Logicbroker, that process is completely automated. So customer places an order for some llama stuff. They I didn't want to use the feed example again, but that was the only thing I could think for llamas. Llama feed, they place that order at night. That order is already to the dropship supplier when they get there in the morning, and they can ship it out to that farmer so they can feed his llamas. It also provides that faster shipping too. So let's talk about how staying ahead of the competition, EDI and automation, that's something we've already touched on a lot, and I think you guys see the benefit of having those processes automated. So let's talk about some tools that Logicbroker has to help you stay ahead of the competition.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is demo some things for you. The big thing is, you may consider us just an EDI platform, but we're a lot more than that. So what we like to do is provide different tools, maybe something that your OMS doesn't have, to give you an edge in your, processing. So I'm just going to walk through like a few things here. So some new features like fulfillment sourcing and routing. Maybe you don't have certain routing in your OMS currently, and you need to use Logicbroker to help you out. And also using printing shipping labels, using a merchant's carrier account as a supplier. So, giving the merchant full control over their supply chain. And then we're going to get a little deep dive into some data science and some business analytics.
Yeah, something cool too. We touched upon the shipping label process before with ShipStation, and Ed is actually going to, like you said, show that entire process for you guys.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's go into some fulfillment sourcing. So this is one of our new features. It's one of our fancy algorithms that we created. So just to give you an example, here is the flow. We like to call it least common supplier because it's based on finding the least amount of suppliers to fulfill your orders. So we start off at the sales orders received, just like a typical integration with a retailer in our platform. Sales order comes in. We look for all available items by supplier. So we look to see like who fed all their inventory, if they match on that order. And then we check if there's quantity. If there's no quantity available for one of the items, we'll send an error notification out to whoever. So Blair and Jim showed the whole notification system before. So you'd get a notification like that. If there aren't any multiple suppliers, it'll just create a PO for the single supplier. And then if there are, that's when our algorithm kicks in. So this is the cool part. So first, we calculate compactness. So this is just a function of number of suppliers to number of items. We get that score, and then we use it to calculate another score. So that score is then a function of that compactness and total cost. And that cost is derived from what the suppliers provide. Once we have all our different options layered out, we choose the lowest score. And this algorithm takes into account, just a basic sense of like landed cost. So you are always providing the most value, not just to your customers, because your customers want to receive less packages, but to your pocket too as well, because it's going to be cheaper. So I'm going to just jump right in and give you an example of this.
Yeah. So as they're transitioning over to him, like Ed said, the most important thing about this for a retailer is the fact that this is going to save you on those shipping costs, really, because instead of having to ship out multiple boxes for multiple different items, they can all go in one together. And for then the retailer, that saves you money.
Yep. So the actual calculation is kind of complex. So what we did was we built a screen to help us, actually run through some scenarios so we could test it and make sure that, anyone looking to, implement this kind of sourcing could see like what are the end results. So in this left panel here, you'll see that we have suppliers. So this is just indicating what your supplier's inventory is for certain items. So we have supplier A, B, and C, and then we have items 1, 2 here, and then the quantity that's available in their system that they provided us, and the cost as well. Now on this middle section here, represents the order. So you have items 1, 2, and 3, and the quantity that's being ordered. And this third section here is the available options and the scores that we actually calculated. So if I just hit test here, you can see it run. So it picked this option here. So it fulfilled items 1 and 2 for supplier C. So notice one thing here, that the cost is actually more expensive on option 1 than 2, but the score is cheaper because of the compactness. So this is taking a reflection of, a little landed cost into account and making sure that that's going to be the best option for you.
And Ed, maybe can you explain what landed cost is if anybody out there doesn't know?
So landed cost is, just any shipping and handling or, other operational costs that are involved with getting that order to the customer.
So landed cost is better.
What?
Having a lower landed cost is better, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so you could see actually, like if I change the price of this item here, even though it's more expensive than 3, you'll see that there's a tipping point to selecting that other supplier to source it from. So pretty cool stuff. So just to give you an example, real world examples, so I'm just not pulling your chain and I just didn't create like a fake UI. I'm just going to give you an example of an order in our system.
So anybody unfamiliar, this is the Logicbroker platform. And like Ed said, he's just going to show you what it would actually look like if you were a retailer and you were sourcing these orders. And as Ed going through this, I'm thinking about a customer. We had a customer that was spending, they had this sourcing loss. So they were trying to figure out how can we lower that landed cost for these items. And the only thing they really came up with was just looking at every single order, because if they don't look at it, they couldn't figure out a way to put an algorithm together. So they just had somebody looking at it that was decreasing their shipping time. So they're able to implement this, something that happens automatically. So if the customer places an order 6 a.m., 4 a.m., midnight, it automatically, the algorithm goes out and sends it to the right supplier.
Yep. So here's just an example of a sales order that was generated by a retailer. So you could see under related documents that we created 2 purchase orders off of it. And if you go under events, for every sales order that we source, we provide the sourcing report. So this is all available to the user to see, where those products are going and what the scores were, just so you could check and verify it makes sense on your side. And, just to give you a view of some of the inventory that's in here. Oops. So just like our model, the testing page I showed before, same items, supplier A has 1 and 2, B 1 and 3, and then C has 1, 2, and 3, and all the costs are the same as the testing screen. So now this isn't just, you're not limited to just this type of sourcing or fulfillment processing. We actually offer an API to get an aggregate of all your inventory information per supplier across all suppliers. So if you have a SKU that's shared across 10 different suppliers, we have one endpoint where you could just provide your SKU and get all that information just in one shot. So this enables you to actually create some. Oh, my authorization's off. Here we go. So this actually allows you to get creative. So let's say you wanted to source something by location. You have your vendors' locations. You have, you actually have the specific landing costs, or you have the function to create those landing costs. You could implement that, and that's a good opportunity to use microservices to get that done. So just to give you an example of what the response would look like, if I search for that item, you could see that I have 3 suppliers here for that product. You get the quantity, the costs, and all that. So it's a good tool to use to develop some complex sourcing logic if it's needed. So I'm going to move on to the next part. So the next part is using the shipping labels. So to give you more control of that supply chain and enable your suppliers to use your carrier accounts, if you're a retailer, to ship your products. So let's hop right over as the supplier. So I'm going to pretend like I'm supplier B and I'm looking in the portal and I have my order. So notice how we have the shipping method USPS next day. If I create a new shipment, they won't have to enter all that information. They could actually just create the tracking information and the label right from this page. So all I have to do is just add their ship from address and the weight. Let's just put 11 pounds and hit submit, and the label will actually get created. So pretty intuitive. They just go under attachments, hit download, and you could see the USPS label. So this allows the retailer to ensure that the supplier's shipping the right shipping method, and just give them more control. Give them cheaper rates on the carrier rates that they're leveraging, and just make a seamless experience for the customer. So the customer's receiving their goods on time and everything's A-OK.
It's all about that control and lowering the cost of ship, this feature right here. I think I mentioned in my ShipStation presentation, we had one customer that their supplier was cheating on the shipment methods, shipping it out one day when it was supposed to be 2-day. Right now, you could see here, the supplier couldn't pick what the shipment method is for that label. It was automatically being picked for them, and they were just putting the label on the box. And most of our retailers that have a better buying power with their UPS and FedEx and the shipping carriers of the world, and so they can pass on the cost that they get from those carriers down to their suppliers when actually shipping out the items.
Yep. So now on to the coolest part. So our business intelligence. So I'm going to make everyone into a little data science experts in 5 minutes. So we don't just consider ourselves an integration platform either. I think a big part of what we do is we're a data platform. Everything we do is around cleansing your data. It's, we put rules around it, we put validation around it, and we always make sure that it comes into a canonical format. So you always have that same format. No matter how many retailers, suppliers, systems you're connected to, you could have hundreds, they're always in that same format. So that data model we have is very clean. And any data scientist will tell you the hardest part about doing data science is getting clean, usable data. It's actually not that difficult picking the right model. There's tons of resources out there, communities and everything. Like if you want an AI model on your data, you could research it. But the hard part is really just getting the right data. So here's an example of a dashboard that I created. And this is something that we're looking to release. We partnered with Microsoft's Power BI. And what we do is supply a data set for you. And that's just a combination of all your Logicbroker data in our system. And then it enables you to actually just create reports. So actionable reports, it's something that actually reflects your business. So you could discover the whys about, are you meeting your goals or why you're not meeting your goals and so on and so forth. So here's just an example of just like some things like metrics, total sales, cost, gross profit. We're doing terrible, as you can see, negative 21 million. And you could break it down per state. You could break down you could actually create a time series here just to see how your business is changing over the years. So if I hit the play button here, you could see how my gross profit and sales change over time with all my different partners. So some cool stuff. Another cool feature I really like is this map overlay. So we could really drill down to see like where your sales are. So I'm just actually pulling right from our order data set here. And if I hover over, I could see, my sales in Illinois are about 1.1 million. And you could actually get even more granular. If I hop over to my data set, I could, instead of ship to state, I could pull ship to zip. So we could actually get an even more detailed overlay. And on top of that, we could add demographics. So let's say you wanted to, you were looking to open up a new brick and mortar store and you just wanted some different information about it, like what target market you're going after, what household income you have, what's the gender population. You could add these additional overlays on top of it. So if I hit edit here, I could go add a reference layer. And you could add, median age, median disposable income, home value, and there's tons of infographics that you could tie this to. So maybe you want to just investigate like a specific product, or you want to check out your marketing plan marketing campaign that you just launched, see how it was received in a specific region. You could tie all that information together. And what's really cool is that you could get data from any source. So this Logicbroker data set would be available to you, but you could also, add whatever. So if you want to add something from Excel, or there's tons of different connectors. So we also have a connector too to load the Power BI system up with, and there's tons of different ones. Dynamics 365. You could do just an ODBC connection, you name it, any kind of database, it's all there. So you could actually combine all your systems data together. Another really cool feature is, creating a dashboard. So maybe you want to check how are your suppliers, performing in your network. You need to know like what's the percentage of their orders being canceled, shipped. Are they matching all my ship methods that I'm sending on my order? When they're actually supplying the shipments back. How often are they late? Are they meeting my SLAs for average days, for the date requested for shipment? So here it looks like I'm doing bad, negative 96 days. So 96 days late. Oh, it's 96 days early. Sorry, I'm doing really good. I don't know how you could predict 96 days, but this is just test data. But also, what's really cool is everything is interactive in the report. So I could if I change one thing, like CC18 retailer here, it'll reflect in the entire report. So it's reloading everything right now. So if you click on anything, you click on like a SKU here, it'll actually filter the whole report on that page. And you could see like what products are best performing for this retailer, and then you could combine them. So you could really come up with some cool things, some actionable insights.
Yeah,
So
what we found with a lot of our retailers, working with their suppliers and managing the performance, some of it was a black hole with the merchandising team. They were doing it a lot by gut, just measuring how many chargebacks they were doing, but they didn't really have a process to really manage it all and really get deep into the data and the analytics behind it. And that's why we're providing this to everybody, so they can figure out how well their suppliers are performing and figure out ways to sell more.
Yeah. And you could actually do some cool things, if you want to check your tracking numbers to make sure they're not BSing you and sending you some wacky tracking numbers. We could check that UPS tracking number is an actual UPS tracking number and provide it in a detailed report. So, it's just a good way to keep your suppliers in check and make sure that they're meeting your demands, your customers' demands, and giving them the full experience that they deserve. So now the last part of this is I'm going to show you some forecasting. So, machine learning is, kind of scary, but it's actually really easy to implement in this platform. And I'm just going to go over some cool stuff. I don't know how many of you ever used the programming language R. 1, 2.
2.
There you go. Well, it's a programming language used by data scientists. Usually it's either they're using R or they're using Python. So in Power BI, if you just select this R script visual, you could bring in your data from the data set and then run your R scripts on it. So you could do a lot of cool things. So in this example, I'm using the library forecast. So you could install any library, any model. So if you're interested in machine learning and you want to learn about different models, there's a huge community out there for it. And you could see that I'm just using a count of all my purchase orders and order date. So it's really simple. And then I have a frequency of 30 days. And then I train the model. So I have this. And then I plot it. So you could see here that I have 30 days of forecast, but it's super easy to change. If I wanted to do 1 year, just add 365 and run it. And you could actually open all these scripts right out of Power BI into an IDE or whatever system you're using to write these scripts. So you could see how my forecast changes. So pretty convenient. And you could write R scripts for anything. So if you want to get all this forecasting data into a table and create a new data set, we could do that as well. So it's just something to think about. There's also some homegrown forecasting in here provided by Power BI. So if you actually click into this chart here, this is just a basic line chart. And if we click into the analytics section, you'll see that there's some forecasting. So I have a 3-month forecasting. So this is the same data set as before, just by the way. And I could change like the confidence level. The higher the confidence, the larger the bounds are going to be. And the seasonality is 365 points for a year. So if I hover over it, you could actually see the values. So in this case, I'm forecasting 59. But what's really cool is you could test your model in here as well. So like, let's say I wanted to test to see how well it fits against my existing data. So this ignore last 3 months, I'm just going to put an overlay.
And while that's running, as you can see, it does require some technical background to get set up. I don't know how to do an R script or anything like that. But once you do set it up, the goal is to make it as easy as possible for business users to use the platform and to do that forecasting. So if your member on your merchandising team is talking to a supplier, they can actually come in here, look at the past data, plug in different numbers, their different confidence levels. So if maybe a supplier, you're looking at their performance and they're only performing like at a B level, maybe you make that confidence 80% and tell them, hey, this is what we're projecting. for next year, and you're providing that real data and science behind those projections to your suppliers and for your own teams as well.
Yeah, and you know, this is very simple, but you could get really complex and really come up with some like clustering and correlations and come up with all this cool stuff. And you know, we're not in a place where only the enterprise level people have these. You know, the Amazons of the world, you know, they're not the only ones who have it. It's actually really easy and simple to implement it into your system. And that's what we try to do is provide an easy direction or an easy pathway to give you access to these tools. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we're a community, and, you know, they should be shared, and everyone should have the ability to, you know, use them.
Great. Well, thank you, Ed. I hope everybody found this valuable and you were able to take some key takeaways about how and why your system should be working together, and some of the tools that Logicbroker has to help you guys stay ahead of the competition and save some money as well. If you have any specific questions about how to use something like this or add this, feel free to find me and Ed.
Yeah, and just to clarify, this is a beta. So if you're interested in getting access to your own data model in Logicbroker system, come see me, and you know, we could talk and, you know, talk about some other reports. I'm very interested in different feedback, because before we actually do a full launch, you know, we want to hear from you guys to see like what kind of reports you're looking for, so that we could provide out of the box ones, you know, for everybody, and embed it into our portal.
Thank you.
You guys rocked it. So this concludes our afternoon breakout sessions. So I'm gonna let everyone go on a nice quick 30-minute break, and we're gonna meet back here at 3 p.m. for the last of the general sessions. So enjoy, and we'll see you in 30 minutes. Still mic'd.
When your legs don't work like they used to before, and I can't sweep you off of your feet,